Have you ever realized that your marriage could fall apart because of one casual text? At 6:12 a.m., my wife, Megan, texted me, just having coffee with a friend. I stared at the screen long enough to feel that familiar gut punch men don't usually talk about. Then I replied, "Ask him if his wife liked the hotel on Maple Street." The typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared. My phone started ringing. I let it ring. Because I wasn't angry. I was calculating. If you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, hit subscribe and leave a comment. Because what I discovered next wasn't just cheating, it was the theft of everything I had built. The house felt wrong the second I opened my eyes. Not loud wrong, quiet wrong. The kind of silence that tells you something already happened and nobody bothered to tell you. Megan's side of the bed was cold, no rustle of sheets, no bathroom light under the door, just the faint hum of the fridge and, from the kitchen, a phone buzzing against the counter like it was impatient. She'd left it behind. Megan never left her phone behind. I walked in barefoot, coffee breath still on my tongue, and there it was, face up, screen flashing with a new text. A name I didn't recognize at first because it didn't belong in my life. Brent Holloway. Seeing it felt like a thin blade sliding under my ribs, not because of what it said, because of what it implied. A stranger had a direct line into my home, into my marriage, into my morning. I told myself I wasn't that guy. 20 years together and I'd never snooped, never checked, never played detective. But my gut didn't care about my principles. My gut said, something's off. And the longer that phone kept buzzing, the more it felt like it was calling my name. I picked up her phone like it might burn my hand. It didn't. It just sat there, warm, ordinary, and suddenly heavier than a brick. No passcode. Last month she'd removed it and joked about being open. I remember nodding like that was a sweet idea. Standing there now, I realized it wasn't openness. It was confidence. The kind people get when they think you'll never look. I tapped Brent's name. The thread opened, clean and bright, like it had nothing to hide. And for a second, I almost wished it did, because the truth was sitting right there in plain English. Can't wait for our coffee date. Same place. Private booth in the back. I scrolled up. One coffee date. Then another. Then 3 weeks worth. 4-hour coffee that somehow needed hotels, business meetings, and little inside jokes that didn't belong to a married woman. My mouth went dry. I was still holding my own mug, but the coffee tasted like ash. Then I saw a photo. Not yoga, not coffee, not anything you could explain away with a smile. And that's when it stopped being a suspicion and became a map, clear, detailed, and leading somewhere I didn't want to go. I was still standing there, phone in my hand, when the front door slammed hard enough to shake the picture frames. Footsteps. Fast. A voice that tried to sound casual and failed. "Caleb? I forgot my phone." I set it back on the counter exactly where it had been, like I'd never touched it. My coffee sat in my palm, cooling, because suddenly time had a different temperature. Megan rushed in wearing her yoga outfit, clean, crisp, bright. Hair perfect. Makeup fresh. Not a single damp strand at her temples. Either she'd found a miracle class, or she'd been nowhere near a mat. "Thanks, babe." She grabbed the phone like it was oxygen and kissed my cheek. Mint. And something else underneath it. Something practiced. "I'm meeting a friend for lunch," she said, already moving. "Then I've got a client dinner tonight. Don't wait up." New friend, new schedule, new version of her. I kept my voice easy. "Sounds good. Have fun with your coffee." She stopped for half a beat, just a tiny betrayed pause. Her eyes flicked up like she'd heard a gun cock. "What coffee?" "The one you've been talking about," I said, smooth as glass. Relief slid over her face. "Oh, right, yes." And then she was gone, leaving the air behind her, thinner. When the door clicked shut, I didn't chase her. I didn't call. I didn't throw anything. Men think strength looks like noise. Most of the time, it looks like restraint. I went downstairs to my home office and flipped into work mode, the same place I fix broken systems for a living, the same place I keep the lights on. Megan's laptop was still open on the desk we share, logged in, her email sitting there like an unlocked drawer, Her tablet on the couch, social apps open, messages half read. She'd gotten sloppy. People always do when they think they're safe. I started taking screenshots, dates, times, hotel names, coffee that somehow needed private booths and 4-hour blocks in the middle of the day. I copied threads, saved attachments, pulled calendar entries, and built a clean timeline, one piece at a time, no drama, no guessing. A folder appeared on my desktop. I named it System Failure, because this didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like a pattern, like someone had learned my routines and started using them against me. And if that was true, then Brent Holloway wasn't just a name on a screen, he was an entry point. The folder on my desktop sat there like a loaded gun, System Failure. But a name on a screen isn't a person until you give it a face. So I did what I always do when something doesn't add up. I researched it, quietly, thoroughly. Brent Holloway had a clean digital footprint, too clean. A business coach, motivational speaker, the kind of guy who posts sunrise photos with captions about discipline and winning your day. His website looked expensive. His smile looked practiced. Then I found the family pictures. Brent standing in front of a Christmas tree with a woman tagged as Karen, wedding ring, bright eyes, arms around 2 kids in matching pajamas. It was the kind of photo you scroll past and think, good for them. Except I'd just read 3 weeks of messages that made my stomach turn. The contrast was sickening. Church on Sunday polish on the outside, and a man who felt comfortable sneaking into the cracks of someone else's marriage. I pulled up Megan's calendar next. Yoga at 6 a.m. every Tuesday and Thursday. Brent's coffee times, same days, same windows. I leaned back in my chair and let it settle. Yoga wasn't the habit, it was the cover. And suddenly, connecting the dots didn't feel clever. It felt inevitable. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. I went back through the thread, slow, like rewinding a car crash frame by frame. 3 weeks of messages. Coffee that turned into 4-hour disappearances. Business meetings that somehow needed hotel lobbies and room numbers. Little jokes between them that made it clear I wasn't just being cheated on, I was being laughed at. And then there were the lines that hit hardest because they were so casual. Don't tell him, he won't notice. Same hotel as last time. I checked our shared credit card statements, charges that didn't belong. A mid-range hotel off the highway, 2 dinners for 1, a boutique Megan never mentioned. Receipts in her email. Digital breadcrumbs everywhere because people who think they're smart get lazy. I saved everything. Screenshots, PDFs, dates, times, no gaps, no mercy. That's the moment most guys file for divorce and try to move on. And believe me, part of me wanted the clean cut. But clean felt like letting them decide how this ended. I stared at the evidence and thought, no, not their way. If they wanted to play games, I'd set the rules. I didn't text her because I wanted to argue. I texted her because I wanted the truth to feel real in her hands for the first time. My thumbs hovered over the screen like they belonged to someone else. Then I typed, simple and calm. Hope Brent likes his coffee strong today. I stared at the message after it sent, waiting for the world to tilt. It didn't. The house stayed quiet. The fridge kept humming. My coffee kept cooling. Life kept pretending nothing was happening. 30 seconds later, her reply hit. What are you talking about? Then another, faster. Caleb, stop. This isn't funny. That's how you know you landed it. Not the words, her speed. The panic underneath the punctuation. People who are innocent don't type like their life depends on it. I didn't answer. I turned my phone off and set it face down on the desk like it was a finished job. For the first time all morning, I let myself breathe. Not because it felt good. It didn't. But because it confirmed what my gut had been screaming since 6:12 a.m. Okay, she knows I know. And now the next move mattered more than the last 20 years combined. There's a certain kind of anger you can't take into a living room. It leaks onto the people you love. It stains the furniture. It turns you into a man you don't recognize. So I drove across town to the only place that ever taught me what to do with it. Frank Dalton's gym sat in a tired strip of old warehouses, paint peeling, sign half lit like it didn't care if you found it. Inside, it was the same as it had always been. Leather, sweat, metal, and that steady rhythm of gloves meeting heavy bags. Thump, thump, Thump. Like a heartbeat that refused to quit. Frank looked up from wrapping some kid's hands and gave me a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Been a minute, Caleb." I nodded, slipped on gloves without saying much. Talking felt dangerous. Like if I started, I'd say something I couldn't take back. I hit the bag hard, then harder, punches landing like I was trying to knock time backward, like I could beat 20 years into submission and make it give me my life back. After a few rounds, Frank came close, voice low. "This about Megan." I froze mid-breath, because the way he said it, quiet, certain, told me the worst part. He knew, before I did. Frank didn't ask questions like a gossip. He asked like a man who already knew the answer and was giving you one last chance to lie to yourself. He leaned against the ring post, wiping his hands with a towel that looked older than both of us. "Saw Megan last week," he said, casual tone, heavy words. "Over by Russo's. She wasn't alone." I kept my eyes on the bag like it might save me. "With who?" Frank shrugged. "Some guy, not you." That simple, that brutal. Then he looked straight at me and said slow, like he wanted it to land clean. "You don't do that to a man. Not like this." I felt heat climb my neck, that old mix of embarrassment and rage, because it wasn't just betrayal. It was being made small in public, being treated like a fool. Frank tapped his chest with 2 fingers. "It's the disrespect, Caleb. That's what burns." I swallowed hard and nodded once. "I'm not going to do something stupid," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "I'm going to do something smart." Frank's eyes narrowed. "Smart how?" I pulled my gloves off, flexed my hands. "With a paper trail," I said. "No yelling, no guessing, just facts. Because in my world, you don't win by swinging first. You win by proving you never missed." Back home, the house looked the same. Clean counters, quiet rooms, normal life. But I wasn't living in normal anymore. I was living inside a lie that had receipts. I sat at my desk and opened the folder again. System failure. I picked one message thread, explicit enough that nobody could call it business, clear enough that nobody could twist it. Then I forwarded it to Brent's business email. Subject line, "I think you dropped this." No speech, no threats, no emotion. Just a match tossed into dry grass. Then I added Karen, his wife. One click. Her name looked innocent sitting there like she had no idea what was about to hit her morning. And because I understood how communities work, how secrets don't stay secrets, I added a few of Megan's close friends, the ones who always knew everyone's business before anyone else did. Controlled spread, maximum pressure, minimal noise. My finger hovered over send for half a second. Not hesitation, just acknowledgement. Then I hit it. The silence held for maybe 2 minutes, and then my phone started ringing like the house had caught fire, one call after another. That's the thing about truth. Once it's out, it doesn't come back in. I expected a slow burn, a few days of tension, a quiet confrontation. I was wrong. The first call came from someone who actually knows Megan, one of the real friends, not the rotating names she used like cover stories. Her voice was tight, confused. "Caleb, what's going on?" I didn't explain. Explaining turns you into the villain. I just said, "I'm handling it," and let the silence do its work. Then Brent called. His voice was smooth, controlled, like he was stepping onto a stage. "Caleb, we need to talk." I could picture him already, pacing, rehearsing, trying to shape the narrative before it shaped him. I kept my tone flat. "No, we really don't." A beat of dead air. That's when you hear panic leak through professionalism. He tried again, softer. "This doesn't have to get ugly." I looked at the evidence folder on my screen. It already is. Then Karen started lighting up my phone, texts back to back, calls I didn't answer. Anger, disbelief, heartbreak punching through in bursts. I didn't respond to any of them, not because I didn't care, because I did. But silence is power when everyone else is scrambling for control. And Brent? He was losing it. The front door flew open like she'd forgotten how to use a handle. Megan stormed into the kitchen, eyes red, mascara slightly off, like she'd tried to fix herself in the car and failed. She didn't even look at the counter first. She looked at me. "What did you do?" she snapped, voice shaking with rage and fear. "Are you out of your mind?" I set my mug down carefully. Slow movements, calm hands. I wasn't going to give her a scene she could later rewrite as me being unstable. "Do what?" I asked. "You sent those messages. You dragged people into this." I nodded once, like she'd reminded me of something mundane. "I shared information," I said. "Transparency. You're always talking about how important honesty is." Her mouth opened, then closed. Then, she tried a different angle, sharper. "You had no right to read my private conversations." That word, private, hung in the air like a bad joke. I met her eyes. "Private?" I said quietly. "We share everything, remember? Joint accounts, joint bills, joint life." She took a step back like I'd slapped her, and for a second I saw it. She wasn't just angry. She was realizing I wasn't going to fold. Not this time. Megan's eyes stayed locked on mine like she could bully reality into changing. "This isn't what you think," she said, voice tight. "Brent and it's a business project." I let the words hang there for a second, like I was considering them. Then I gave her the only response that fit. "A business project," I repeated. "What, you two were testing mattress quality?" Her face cracked. Tears came fast, messy, the kind that usually used to undo me. And for one stupid heartbeat, it almost worked. I saw the woman I married, the one who laughed at dumb movies and used to reach for my hand in parking lots without thinking. Then my brain replayed the thread. Don't tell him. He won't notice. The hotel, the private booth, 3 weeks of practiced deceit. The softness drained right out of me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I just nodded once, slow. "Okay," I said quietly. "Then explain why your project needs a hotel room." She opened her mouth and nothing came out. That silence wasn't innocence. It was the sound of a lie running out of road. I leaned against the counter and kept my hands visible, steady, like I was talking down a situation that could explode if I moved too fast. "Here's what we're gonna do," I said. "You get 2 options." Megan wiped her face, still trying to look like the victim of my overreaction. "Option 1, I continued. "You tell me the truth. All of it. No edits, no pretty excuses. You call it what it is. Then we can talk counseling, lawyers, whatever comes next, like adults." Her eyes flickered, searching for an exit. "Option 2, I said, voice calm as a closed door. "You keep lying. You keep playing games. And you find out what happens when you try to outplay a man who lives in systems and consequences." She stared at me. "Are you threatening me?" I shook my head once. "No. I'm offering you an opportunity. Take it or leave it." For a second, she looked small, cornered, human. Then her face changed, like a switch flipped behind her eyes. The tears stopped meaning anything. Her jaw set. "Fine," she said coldly. "You want to play hardball? Let's play." And when she stormed out, I knew the next move wouldn't be emotional. It would be aimed at something I actually need to survive. That night, the house didn't feel peaceful. It felt staged, like everything was in its place on purpose. Too clean, too quiet, too careful. I was rinsing out my coffee mug when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You made a big mistake." No name, no context, just a threat, dropped like a brick through a window. I didn't hesitate. I typed back, "No, I made the first move." Then I did what fear tells most men not to do. I got organized. I opened a notebook and started logging everything. Time Megan left, time she returned, every call, every text, every charge, every lie. Date stamps, screenshots, receipts, a timeline that could stand up in a courtroom or a boardroom. Next, I backed up my life. Email archives, client files, cloud storage, 2-factor on anything that mattered, copies on a drive that never left my pocket, because I knew what was coming. People like Brent don't fight fair. They don't fight with feelings. They fight where it hurts. And for a man like me, the softest spot isn't my heart. It's my livelihood. I went to bed with my phone face down, already hearing tomorrow's damage before it arrived. Morning proved me right. I woke up to 17 missed calls from my biggest client. 17. That's not concern, that's panic. My throat went tight before I even sat up. Then the email came through, stamped urgent. Caleb, what the hell did you send us? Our system crashed the moment we opened your file. For a second, I just stared at the screen like it might change its mind, like the words were a mistake. I opened my sent folder, and there it was, an email from my account to their IT team. Short, professional, exactly how I'd write it, except I hadn't written a single word. There was an attachment I'd never seen, with a file name that looked almost right, like someone had tried to mimic my habits and missed by half an inch. My stomach dropped. That wasn't an argument in a kitchen anymore. That wasn't a cheating scandal, that was sabotage. Cheating is one kind of betrayal, but messing with how I keep the lights on, how I put food on the table, that's a different kind of cruelty. I sat on the edge of the bed, jaw clenched, and felt something settle in my chest. Not panic, purpose. Then I grabbed my phone and called Ethan. I need you, I said, right now, and I need you to check the fingerprints on this. Ethan answered on the second ring, voice already guarded. Tell me you didn't actually send that file. I didn't, I said. I need you to prove it. He looped in his IT lead while I stayed on the line, watching my client's angry emails stack up like bills. There's a special kind of fear when your reputation is bleeding and you can't put pressure on the wound with your hands. Run the metadata, I told them. Timestamp, origin IP, anything that shows where it was created and sent from, and compare the writing style to my normal emails. Ethan didn't ask why, didn't ask. He just did it. That's why he's my partner. 20 minutes felt like a day. Then Ethan came back, quieter now. The attachment was created at 2:03 a.m., sent at 2:11 a.m. The IP traces to a Starbucks on Main, near your house. I let that sink in. Megan had been sleeping beside me. And the email copy? I asked. Not your voice, he said. Close, but off. Like someone imitating you. I exhaled slowly. Not relief, something colder. Good, I said. Because computers remember who lies. And now I had what I needed. Proof that the hit on my business wasn't an accident. It was a move. Once you understand the game, you stop reacting. You start documenting. I took Ethan's report, clean, technical, undeniable, and lined it up next to everything else. Megan's threats, the unknown number text, the timing, the sudden yoga routine, the disappearing hours. The picture wasn't just ugly, it was consistent. Then I did something most people would call cruel. I called it necessary. Megan worked in marketing, client-facing, trust-based, reputation-driven. If she was willing to frame me for a cyber incident, she was willing to damage anyone who got in her way. That wasn't a marital problem anymore. That was a workplace risk. I drafted an email to her supervisor. Polite, controlled, no rage. I'm reaching out of concern, I wrote. My wife appears to be under unusual stress. There have been incidents involving threats and interference with client communications. I'm worried her judgment may be compromised. I attached the analysis, the timeline, the screenshots. I didn't call her names. I didn't ask for punishment. I just showed risk, the kind companies don't ignore. My finger hovered over send for 1 second, then pressed, because Megan wanted status, control, a career that made her feel seen, and now the ground under that was shifting, fast. I sat back and waited, knowing the phone would ring soon, and when it did, she wouldn't be calling to cry. She'd be calling to fight. After the virus stunt, I stopped treating Brent like a side character in my marriage. He wasn't just the guy in my wife's phone. He was a man willing to swing at my livelihood, through her, through me, through whatever door was unlocked. So I called him. He answered like he'd been waiting, voice smooth, careful. Caleb. Meet me, I said. No preamble. 1 hour. A pause. He was weighing options, looking for leverage. Where? Downtown, the parking garage by the courthouse. Public enough that nobody gets brave. Quiet enough that you can hear a man's voice crack when he realizes he's cornered. I'm not... Come alone, I cut in. Or don't come at all. I hung up before he could build a story. On the drive, the city looked ordinary. Traffic lights, commuters, people living clean lives. I felt like I was moving under glass. I started the recording app before I even parked. Not because I wanted a fight. Because I wanted something better than rage. I wanted a confession. A clean line in the sand. Words that couldn't be walked back. When I stepped into that garage, my footsteps echoed. Concrete, fluorescent lights, cold air. And I knew Brent would agree, because men like him always think they're still in control. Brent was already there, leaning on a silver SUV like he belonged in a brochure. Crisp shirt. Watch that cost more than my first car. His face held that coached calm, like every emotion had been sanded down and sold back as confidence. "This has gone far enough," he said as I approached. I didn't speed up, didn't slow down, just walked. "Has it?" I said. Because from where I'm standing, it just started. His jaw tightened. "Look, I'm sorry about what happened with Megan. Things got out of hand, but it's over now." There it was. He'd said it like it was a misunderstanding between gentlemen, like he hadn't been rooting around in my life. I let him breathe for 1 second. Then I dropped the detail. "Room 237, I said. "Marriott off Maple. Off. Same routine, same excuses. You should really switch it up." Color drained out of his face so fast it was almost funny. Almost. "How did you—" I held up my phone, screen facing him. The red dot was on, recording. His eyes flicked to it, then back to me, trying to find the angle. "You can't record me." "I can," I said. "And I just did." He swallowed hard, and that polished confidence finally cracked at the edges. Because he realized this wasn't about a cheating wife anymore. It was about a man protecting his name and documenting every step. When I got home, the house smelled like our anniversary restaurant. Garlic, butter, and a memory I didn't ask for. A takeout bag sat on the counter beside our good plates. Megan stood there with a bottle of the red I like, the one she saves for apologies. "I thought we could talk," she said, "like we used to." I sat, not because I forgave her, but because I wanted to see which Megan showed up, the tearful one or the tactical one. She poured 2 glasses with steady hands. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It's over. With Brent. Completely." She watched my face for permission to breathe again. I nodded once, kept my voice calm. "Good." Her shoulders loosened, just a little. "Then answer one thing," I said. "Anything," she replied, almost grateful. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just asked the question that turns romance into a police report. "How much client information did you give him?" The candlelight didn't change, but her expression did. Hope didn't fade. It shut off, like a switch. And I realized the dinner was just camouflage, same as yoga, same as coffee, meant to make a lie feel normal. Megan's eyes flicked down to the table, like the wood grain might offer a script. "You're reaching," she said. "You're looking for reasons." I didn't move. I slid my phone across the table and said 3 names, slow enough to hurt. Data Tech, Morrison Industries, Apex Solutions. She blinked. Those weren't random. Those were the accounts that paid our mortgage, our insurance, our weekends, our quiet little life. She'd asked about them over dinner, like it was curiosity, like it was interest in my world. "Why are you bringing clients into this?" she snapped. "Because you did," I said. I opened an email from Brent, sent to Datatech that morning. He pitched coaching, and in one paragraph he referenced details only I knew. The budget ceiling, the internal deadline, the director's complaint about the rollout. My stomach tightened as if I'd swallowed ice. Megan's hand trembled when she scrolled. "This proves nothing," she whispered. "You're paranoid." I leaned in, voice low. "This isn't paranoia. This is my name, my work, my livelihood." That's when her breathing changed, short, shallow, because she finally understood. Cheating is shame. This is felony. Megan's face hardened like she'd finally gotten tired of pretending. The trembling stopped, the guilt drained out. What was left looked familiar in a way that scared me. "You really think you're better than me," she said. "Because you make more money? Because you're the one with the clients?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her words were answering for her. "I'm tired of living in your shadow," she went on, voice sharp and steady. "Tired of being the tech guy's wife. Brent actually sees my potential." That name again, like she was saying it to prove she had options, like a man who lies for a living was suddenly a life coach. That's when it hit me. She didn't just drift into this. She chose it. chose the secret lunches, chose the hotels, chose the theft. I stood up and started clearing the plates. Quiet movements, calm hands. "You're free, Megan," I said. "Free to be whoever you think you are. Just not here. Not in this house. Not on my back." Her eyes flashed. "You can't kick me out. I'll take the house, the accounts, half your business. I'll make sure you lose everything." And in that moment, it wasn't marriage anymore. It was war over what a man built. After she left the room, the silence felt heavier than any shouting. I sat alone at the table, staring at the leftover candle wax like it was evidence, because at this point, everything was. I opened my laptop and pulled up the timeline I'd built. Dates, times, hotel charges, message spikes, her yoga routine. It was solid. Too solid. That's what bothered me. The trail was almost textbook, like someone wanted me to find it, like the clues were placed just far enough apart to keep me angry and blind. Megan could lie with a straight face, sure, but she wasn't usually careless. Not like this. I zoomed out, stopped thinking like a husband, and started thinking like a man who fixes broken systems. Who benefits? I created a new file and named it exactly that. Who benefits? Then I went after Brent, past the motivational quotes and family photos. I started digging into his business, his speaking gigs, his company filings, the money behind the smile. Because men don't take risks like this just for fun. Not when there are careers, lawsuits, reputations on the line. And the more I looked, the more one thought kept returning, cold and clear. What if Megan wasn't the mastermind? What if she was the distraction? Once I asked who benefits, the story stopped looking like a messy affair and started looking like a plan. Brent's numbers didn't make sense. His successful brand had holes, patchy reviews, inconsistent revenue, a lot of shine for not much weight. So I followed the only thing that never lies: access. I pulled system logs from my own machines, file history, sync activity, login locations, the boring stuff most people never look at, because most people don't know how. That's when a name kept popping up in small places it didn't belong. Alyssa Monroe, Megan's best friend. The fun one. The one who always had a suggestion. New yoga studio, new girls' night, new self-care routine. Alyssa worked digital strategy, cloud tools, tracking, account management, the kind of job where you learn how to move data quietly and call it optimization. I found calendar invites Megan didn't create, shared links Megan never sent, and in one log, a file access signature that wasn't Megan's device, not her browser, not her timing, not her pattern. My stomach tightened. Megan wasn't running this alone, and the second that name came into focus, it felt like getting hit again, harder than the first time, because cheating is personal. But this was coordinated. At 3:58 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Megan. "We need to talk. Riverside Trail, an hour. Come alone." The message wasn't emotional. It was clipped. Urgent. Like someone had taken the phone from her shaking hands and forced her to type. Outside, the neighborhood was still asleep. Streetlights cast that dull orange glow over empty roads. I drove with the radio off, listening to my own thoughts and hating how loud they were. Riverside Trail was barely awake, just a few runners in reflective vests, a guy walking a dog, the soft hiss of tires on wet pavement. The kind of normal that makes your skin crawl when your life isn't normal anymore. Megan was sitting on a bench near the water, hunched forward like she was trying to fold herself smaller. No makeup, no perfect hair, just a hoodie pulled up and hands clenched in her sleeves. I stopped a few feet away, kept distance, kept control. She looked up, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't see anger or calculation. I saw fear. "Caleb," she said, voice thin, "I think I'm in real trouble." And the way she said it told me something chilling. She wasn't scared of me. She was scared of them. Megan kept her eyes on the water like it was safer than looking at me. Her voice was small, scraped raw. "Brent wasn't just sleeping with me," she said. "He was using me." I didn't speak. I let her fill the silence because lies hate quiet and truth needs it. "At first it was nothing," she rushed out. "He'd ask casual stuff. Who you were working with, what kind of projects. I thought it was just conversation. I thought he was impressed. she swallowed. Then it turned into specifics, names, timelines. Just send me something so I understand. I sent a couple files. I swear I didn't think it through. I held her gaze for the first time. And then? Her shoulders slumped. Then I did. And I still did it. She wiped her face with her sleeve. After you exposed him, he called me. Angry, scared. He said if this blows up, he'll make sure everyone knows I stole it. He has emails, attachments. He'll bury me. My jaw tightened. Cheating was shame. This was my livelihood. Then she whispered the part that made everything click. Alyssa helped him. She showed me how. The morning air felt sharp in my lungs. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to let her deal with the mess she made. But I pictured my clients, my contracts, my name, everything I'd built with my own hands, getting passed around like stolen goods. Pride doesn't pay the bills. Proof does. All right, I said quietly. If we do this, we do it my way. Megan looked up, eyes red and swollen. Anything. No more lies, I said. Not one. You tell me everything, every file, every account, every time you met him, every time Alyssa touched anything. Full truth. She nodded too fast, because she didn't have another move. And you follow instructions, I added. Exactly. This isn't about saving face, this is about stopping them. Her voice cracked. Okay. I let a beat pass, then said what I needed said out loud, in plain English, so there'd be no rewriting it later. When this is over, I told her, there is no us, no reset, no counseling. We shut this down, and then you walk away. Her mouth tightened. She tried not to sob. Then she nodded, small, defeated. And that's how our marriage ended. Not with screaming, with an agreement. We sat in my car as the sky started to lighten, and Megan finally stopped talking in circles. She gave me specifics, the kind that don't belong in a marriage conversation, the kind that belong in a case file. Alyssa has it all, she said, voice tight. There's a server in her apartment, and backups, multiple cloud accounts. She rotates them, different passwords, different folders. I kept my eyes forward. When does it move? Tonight, she answered, like the word hurt. There's a buyer meeting in the warehouse district. My stomach went cold. Who's buying? Megan hesitated, then said it anyway. Tech Global. That name landed heavy. They'd tried to poach my clients for years. I always assumed they'd fight like professionals. Turns out they just hired thieves. Alyssa brings the files, Megan continued. Brent handles the money. He thinks he's untouchable. I stared at the steering wheel, knuckles whitening. This wasn't about catching a cheater anymore. This was about catching a hand in the register. We don't confront them, I said. We document them. Megan looked at me confused. We need evidence that sticks, I told her, because the clock just started counting down to tonight. Once I had a time and a place, my mind went into a mode I hadn't used in years. Calm, ugly, efficient. Like prepping for a storm you can't stop, only survive. I called Ethan first. No drama, just facts. I need you close tonight, I said. Not inside, nearby. If I miss a check-in, you call the police. No hesitation. He didn't ask for the whole story. He just said, send me the location. Back home, I made copies of everything. 2 drives, separate cloud, printed highlights for good measure. I didn't trust luck, and I didn't trust devices. I trusted redundancy. Then I rehearsed the lie we'd need to tell them. I was the broken husband who decided if his life's work was going to be stolen, he might as well get paid. Bitter, practical, done with dignity. Megan practiced her part too. Guilty, but hungry. Like she wanted in. Like she'd chosen them over me. Finally, I stood in my office and taped the wire to my chest. Cold adhesive, slow breath. That little click when it powered on. That was the sound of a door closing behind me. No more theory, no more talking, just the plan, and the night coming fast. All day I rehearsed one sentence until it stopped sounding like acting and started sounding like truth. If I'm going down, I'm getting paid. I said it in the mirror. I said it under my breath while making coffee. I said it like a man who'd been drained dry and decided to stop bleeding for free. The trick wasn't the words. It was the look behind them. Tired eyes, a bitter edge, that hollow calm you see in men who've stopped hoping. Megan practiced too, sitting across from me at the kitchen table like we were strangers negotiating terms. "We're not back together," she said, voice sharp. "We're just finishing this." "Good," I told her. "Don't overdo it. If you try to sell it too hard, they'll smell it." She flinched at that, because for once she knew what it felt like to be inspected. Before we left, I walked through the house and checked the locks out of habit. Front door, back door, garage. Then I paused with my hand on the knob. I wasn't just locking up for the night. I was locking away the version of my life where my home was safe by default. When the deadbolt clicked, it sounded final. Night turned the warehouse district into something else. Empty streets, broken streetlights, long shadows that made every corner look like a decision you can't undo. I drove slow, headlights washing over loading docks and chain-link fences. Megan sat quiet in the passenger seat, arms folded tight like she could hold herself together by force. Then I saw Brent's vehicle parked where he wanted it, visible, confident. And beside it, a black sedan I didn't recognize, the kind of car that says corporate without saying a word. My phone buzzed with Ethan's check-in text. I replied with one word, "Here." A minute later, a red convertible rolled in like it owned the night. Alyssa Monroe, top down, hair perfect, posture relaxed. She didn't look like someone about to commit a crime. She looked like someone about to close a deal. My hand stayed steady on the wheel. Heart beating, yes, but even. Controlled. I refused to give fear the driver's seat. I exhaled once and glanced at Megan. "Showtime," I said. We got out, and the air hit my face like cold metal. Each step toward that building felt heavier than the last, like walking into court before you've even been charged. And the door was already open. The stairwell smelled like dust and old paint. Every step up echoed too loud, like the building wanted witnesses. When we reached the second floor, the air changed. Colder, cleaner, controlled. Brent was there with Alyssa, both acting like this was a normal Tuesday. And beside them stood two men in suits so sharp they looked out of place in a dead building. No wasted movement, no small talk, the kind of calm you buy with corporate lawyers. Brent smiled when he saw us. "Well, well," he said, eyes flicking between me and Megan. "Happy couple." Megan's voice came out hard, rehearsed. "We're not back together." I kept mine flat. "We're here to finish business." One of the suits stepped forward and offered a hand like we were closing on a house. "David Chen," he said. "Tech Global." That name made my stomach tighten. Not because it surprised me, because hearing it out loud made it real. Chen's eyes drifted over me. My jacket, my hands, my face. Like he was assessing risk, not a person. The second suit didn't even look at me. He looked at Alyssa's laptop bag. Chen tilted his head. "You're sure this information is current?" My wire felt heavier against my chest, because now I wasn't dealing with a cheater and a grifter. I was staring at the bigger fish. Alyssa didn't hesitate. She set the laptop on a dusty folding table like it was a trophy, popped it open, and turned the screen toward the suits. "Everything's here," she said, proud, like she'd built it instead of stealing it. Folders, spreadsheets, source code, client names, project notes, pricing history, the same things I'd spent late nights perfecting while Megan slept beside me. My life's work, reduced to neat little icons. For a second, I couldn't hear anything except my own pulse, loud, slow, like blood knocking on a door. Brent leaned in, enjoying it. 5 years of assets, he said. Clients, methodologies, proprietary tools. You know what that's worth. Chen's expression didn't change. "We'll need verification," he said calmly. "We don't buy problems." Alyssa clicked through files, showing more, faster, trying to impress, trying to prove value. And I watched my own business scroll past like someone else's property. Something hot rose in my throat. Not rage, something older, protective, survival. Before I could stop myself, the words came out, raw and quiet. I created most of that. Brent's smile faltered for the first time, because suddenly I wasn't the broken husband at the door. I was the original owner, standing in the room where they were selling my name. For a second, nobody spoke. The laptop glow painted their faces like a confession booth. I could feel my heartbeat against the wire, steady and loud. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I'd been building for days. Not screenshots this time, logs, access records, admin credential hits, timestamps that didn't belong to my devices. I held the screen up so David Chen could see it clearly. "Let me save you the trouble," I said, voice even. "This isn't business intelligence. This is stolen property, trade secrets, computer fraud, conspiracy. You're not buying an advantage, you're buying a felony." Chen's eyes flicked across the lines, then to the other suit. Their confidence didn't shatter. It shifted, like men used to backing away from risk before it touches their shoes. Brent stepped forward, jaw clenched. "You can't prove any of that." I nodded once. "I can." I tapped my chest, just enough to draw their attention. "I'm wearing a wire," I said, "and I've been recording since we walked in." The air froze. Alyssa's hand hovered over the keyboard like she could delete reality. Megan went still beside me, because everyone in that room understood the same thing at the same time. They weren't closing a deal. They were getting caught. Then we heard it. Footsteps in the stairwell. Not one set. Several. Heavy enough to carry authority, measured enough to be trained. Brent's head snapped toward the door. Alyssa's face drained. The suits stiffened like they'd just remembered consequences exist. Ethan stepped into the room first, calm as a man clocking in. Behind him came two uniformed officers, and then a detective in a dark coat with courthouse eyes, tired, sharp, familiar. "Nobody's leaving," Ethan said, not loud, just final. Chen lifted both hands slightly, already building a legal exit. "We're leaving," he said. "This is a misunderstanding." The detective didn't blink. "Not tonight." One officer moved to the door. The other walked straight to the table and put a hand on the laptop like it was evidence, because it was. I reached under my shirt, pulled the recorder free, and held it out. My fingers didn't shake. "This has everything," I said. "The offer, the buyer, the files, the intent." The detective took it and nodded once, like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. Brent lunged half a step toward me, rage flashing, then stopped cold when an officer placed a hand on his shoulder. And when the first pair of cuffs closed, click. It wasn't dramatic. It was clean, like a lock finally catching. Everything got loud after the cuffs. Not shouting, movement, radios, footsteps, the sound of a deal collapsing in real time. Brent twisted against the officer like he could muscle his way back into control. "You set us up," he barked, eyes wild, face flushed with that ugly panic men get when the room stops believing them. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even step closer. "No," I said. "You documented yourselves. You couldn't stop talking long enough to stay innocent." Alyssa tried a different angle, sharp, rehearsed. "This is entrapment," she snapped, chin up like she'd seen too many courtroom clips online. Detective Morrison barely looked at her. "A private citizen recorded a crime in progress," he said. "That's not entrapment. That's evidence." The Tech Global guys started backing up, hands half raised, already drafting excuses. The officers didn't care. They were detained anyway, names taken, statements coming, consequences queued up. And Megan didn't move. She stood beside me like her legs had forgotten their job, trembling, silent, watching her best friend and her lover get led away like strangers. Then she leaned in, voice small. "And us?" she asked. And suddenly, winning didn't feel like winning. Megan's question hung between us like smoke. And for a moment, I saw everything we used to be. Holidays, inside jokes, the dumb little routines you build without realizing they're the glue. Then I saw what she'd done with it. I turned and looked at her properly. Not as my wife. As the person who made a choice, then made it again, and again, until it became a life. "There is no us," I said. She flinched like I'd hit her, but I didn't move. I didn't soften it. "Figure out who you want to be," I added, voice low. "Just do it somewhere else." Her eyes filled, but she didn't argue. Maybe she finally understood that tears don't fix theft. I went home alone. The house felt different, clean in a way that didn't feel peaceful, like someone had scrubbed the air. I sat at my desk and started a list. Which clients to call first, what to say, how to rebuild trust one conversation at a time. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You think you won? This isn't over. I stared at it for one beat, typed nothing, and hit block. Because some chapters don't get sequels. I'll be honest, losing love hurts. It's a deep, personal kind of pain. But losing your livelihood, your name, your work, the thing that keeps the lights on, hits a different nerve. It doesn't just break your heart, it threatens your footing. This whole thing didn't start with a hotel. It started with a casual sentence, a coffee with a friend, a tiny lie dressed up to look harmless. That's how betrayal works. It starts small, so you'll swallow it. Then it grows until the consequences are too big to ignore. I didn't win because I'm tougher than anyone else. I won because I didn't let anger drive the car. I slowed down, collected receipts, and made sure the truth could stand on its own legs. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Protect your name, your word, and your home. That's the foundation a man builds on, quietly, over years. And now I'll ask you one thing, because I know you've been thinking it. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Drop it in the comments, and if this hit close to home, subscribe and stick around.